I am so excited to introduce you to our next speaker, Ned Dwyer, the CEO of Great Question, the end-to-end UX research platform. Ned is going to share how the team learned firsthand why understanding your customers deeper and learning faster is how companies win. Please give a warm welcome to Ned.
Hi, how you doing? Good to be here. Thanks for having me. So my name is Ned. I'm the co-founder of Great Question. As Jenny said, we're the end-to-end UX research tool used by teams like Figma, like Miro, Canva, and Brex to better understand their customers, whether it's through interviews, surveys, or prototype tests. And I give you that context because this talk is a little bit about the trouble that we've been in, that we're all in when it comes to the AI threat. Some context, we started the company in 2021 as a B2B SaaS company. We went through Y Combinator, and our partner at the time said we were doing startups on easy mode. B2B SaaS, the easiest business model on the planet. Well, that same YC partner took me out for lunch earlier this year with kind of an uncomfortable truth he wanted to sit me down and tell me about, which is that things weren't so sweet and easy anymore. And the reason was, any company older than 2023, they considered it to be legacy. You were old news, and you were in trouble. Because if you didn't have an AI native team and an AI native product, and therefore AI native growth rates, your customers were going to leave you, you wouldn't be able to raise any more money, and no one would want to acquire you. You were doomed. Thankfully, he paid for lunch. But it was tough to hear, and I think it's probably the same thing that I think a lot of designers are hearing, which is that design is dead. We're all in trouble. We've got this big, fast-moving beast that's chasing after us that we need to figure out how we're going to outrun or outsmart it. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Ultimately, why I think we're not in as bad shape as we might think, and what you can do about it, what we did about it, to go and escape the morass. Before I start, I'd love to get a sense of, I assume everyone in here is a designer. Put your hand up if you're actually a designer, that's your title. But on top of that job, maybe how many people are also doing the last month or so, maybe pulled some analytics about their product, or written a product requirements document, or maybe even shipped something to production? Right, so a good smattering of people are taking on more than just the day-to-day design job. They're also having to do the jobs of up to a dozen other people. Also, while supporting those same people to also become designers. So the job in 2026 got so much bigger. And so is design is dead? Is that real? The hats are real. If anyone has one of the design is dead hats, by the way, I would love to take that off your hands. And I think the second uncomfortable truth is, aside from the job getting much bigger, more important is that everyone is actually building from the same set of superpowers. We're all using Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini. And so how are we going to differentiate and make sense of this when we're all using largely, by and large, the same sort of models? The answer is deeply understanding who your customers are and the problems that you have the right to solve, while continuing to learn faster to outrun the AI beast. This is learning faster, not necessarily just shipping faster, which I think has been sort of the common maxim, more, faster and faster. It's taking that moment to make sure we're not shipping something that's poor quality, that's not slop. Taking the high road because it's far less crowded. Because if we take velocity, which is critical to the future, but we deliver it without insight, all you're really doing is delivering slop. And no one wants to go and eat the next serving of slop. And you might get away with it for a period, shipping new features faster and faster without really understanding what the customer's problem is and whether you're solving it. But that time will run out. You'll burn the trust of your customers who are sick of just seeing more features that aren't solving their problems. But velocity plus insight means that you're able to quickly solve the customer problems, solve it finally, and move on to the next set of problems or building on that foundation that you've established. Quickly iterating without having to go back and first fix that thing that you might have shipped that didn't hit the mark, and hitting the mark more often than not. Because the counter is also true. If we have all the insight in the world but no velocity, you're going to be super irrelevant. No one's going to care. You're going to be behind the times. You have to have these two things as together. It's especially important because the models that are there today, they're kind of frightening what they can do. How quickly you can code something that looks approximately good, that looks like it's got 90% of what a good design might look like, or information architecture, or whatever it is you're building. But they're getting better. This is a graph of the code produced by Claude Code for the Anthropic team and how much it's increased from 2023. So it's gone up 8x in that time. And it's not the perfect measure of like volume of code, of how much better it's getting. But we're also seeing an increase in the amount of code that's being deployed to production without human interaction. It's currently sitting around 65%, but it's increasing dramatically every quarter. And 65% might not sound that high, but considering no human needs to touch that, frankly, it's kind of terrifying. And if you find yourself saying, well, it can't do my job, or it can't do this part of it, I think the answer ultimately is it can't do that yet, because they're improving so much faster. I think it's really scary what's happening with design and for all functions, really, especially as someone that sells to UX researchers who are going through the same sort of soul search as we are as a company, as you might be as designers. But engineers, we're seeing this, there's tons of analogies we can look at of other people who've gone through it. And I look at engineers in particular, where everyone was told that you should learn to code. And there were coding boot camps almost in every corner. For the last like 10, 15, 20 years, everyone's been told that same thing. Well, now they're squarely in the sights of the models. In fact, the models are particularly attuned to doing coding better than almost any other job because they've got this huge canon to go and build upon. But there's still massive demand for engineers. They haven't gone away, despite what you might read in the news headlines. People are hiring more than ever because the LLM still requires someone to come and understand the broader systems and the processes that it fits in. They still have a limited context window. We still need to think about the architecture. If we let the systems run riot, we'll have an unreadable, unconsumable mess. And so we need to figure out how engineers, they need to figure out how to bring the context, aka the insight from the customer, into the systems. And so engineers are now moving from that low-level coding, I don't need to go and write a new function, to the strategy and the architecture. And hopefully that sounds familiar. And so going back to our time at Y Combinator, my lunch with the Y Combinator partner, Nicholas Dessain, really smart, lovely guy, all credit to him. My instinct after that was kind of, to be honest, to crawl into a ball. I didn't want to do anything. I was depressed. I was like, are we really, the last 5 years of my life is now in the toilet? But I had a couple of nights of good sleep, and I woke up, and I bucked up and decided there was no real way out but through. And so we decided to ultimately rebuild the company to be an AI native company from the ground up. We had to go and take a more bold approach rather than the incremental approach that traditionally was assigned the long, slow SaaS ramp of death, where you can incrementally build features. That world no longer exists. And so this is what we did. The first thing we did was we rethought time. Everything that traditionally would have taken a year, we now need to reimagine and reprogram ourselves to understand that it actually could take a quarter, a month, a week, a day, an hour. For me, that meant things like writing product requirements documents. That might take 3 days, 5 days, maybe longer to write it really well. I can now do that in a morning, but I could do it even better than I ever could before, bringing in all the collective insights from what our customers had told us, from the usage data, from what we could see in the market, even producing a prototype to demonstrate my ideas of what I cared about. And time is important because you're in a race, and for us, that race is against the next batch of YC founders that are looking to go and build the next end-to-end UX research platform. And so we need to figure out how to go and speed this up. And it's just as much about reprogramming as that it is for me to go and walk the walk by writing these product requirements documents or shipping new features to production. Because if I can move that fast, I can empower the team to do the same thing. The second was making everyone a product builder. Now everyone can be a builder. They have the tools at their disposal, but how do we create the guardrails and the training and the framework and the resources that empowers them to go and do that? We have our support team now. Previously, they would get a support ticket, and they would triage it, take it to product, who would take it to design, who would take it to engineering, who maybe would eventually build it, come back to the customer. Now they're able to actually go and ship that change immediately without needing to touch so many hands. And so actually, the volume of output of those fixes and the polish in the product is getting significantly better. Our chief of staff automated end-of-month reporting, which means that we're saving significant time on that thing that was kind of arduous and maybe doesn't need to be done by a human. And I'm shipping everything as well. I'm shipping features to production to nail down paper cuts or modest features, walking the walk once more. We've also moved away from a system that previously there were all these gates up front that had to be triaged and processed, and someone had to write an architecture diagram to a world that's far more permissive by design. And what I mean by that is, rather than doing the gating and the guardrails up front, write this elaborate product requirements document, we'd empower people to take their own initiative to go and build that feature that they cared about, solve that problem they'd heard from that customer, where we then have a system, a design system, as one way to look at it, using tools like Zero Height, to make sure that the things that were being shipped by the back-end engineer, who's now a designer, could be done without breaking our quality bar. The second was establishing rituals of review, where we allowed anyone to, the subject matter expert, to do the final sign-off before it went live. And finally, we baked customer signal, that insight, into every product release. We did this by accessing all of the qualitative data customers ever told us via MCP to understand what anyone ever said across support ticket, sales calls, research, social media, and then being able to ask more pointed questions with customers, bringing the customer into the mix. And I have a brief demo I will show you that talks to this built in Figma Make, if we can go to the demo. So this is Figma Make. And you can see my prompt here, where I have gone and prompted it to build this dashboard on the right-hand side. I then had to tweak it a little bit because it wasn't quite perfect. But now that I've got it, I want to go and test this to make sure that it actually solves the needs of customers. And so you can see in this version here, I can go and submit a new reimbursement. I can go and submit it. It will scan. By the way, how good is Figma Make to create these animations from basically a one-shot? I can then go and fill in my memo about what it's about and submit it. Cool. I then get this link to Great Question via the MCP, which then goes through and establishes a study from within this work surface that I'm actually already operating in to take away that friction of needing to know or go to another tool. It's then gone and set up this study where it tells me what it's actually done. And if I click through, I can go and see what that study actually looks like. If I like, I can edit it. I can see the different steps that it's got that it will take me through. I can also go and look at what the participant experience looks like, which I will, where the moderator can actually talk to you and get feedback. Now, we went and generated this. I did this ahead of time. We sent that link out and got some feedback on what our prototype was, either from our own customers or sending it to external people, whoever our users are. And it's come back, and we've collected this feedback that, hey, we need to maybe automatically fill in the memo field. And maybe I need to be able to upload a PDF, not just a photo. And maybe there needs to be some post-submission next steps that would make it easier. It's even brought in the quotes from the customer so that I know I can ensure that it's not hallucinating, and I can even go and play that back. From here, I can now submit that back into Figma Make and say, that's awesome. I agree with all that stuff. Go and build it. Equally, I could push it into like Linear or some other tool, but let's say I push it back into Figma Make, and it then goes and generates a new version for me, and it's told me what it's done. And so here, if I toggle to version 3, I now go to my reimbursement. It's got PDF added as an additional type in my prototype, as per the customer request. It's even given me this high confidence rating, so you could read that from all the way back on the merchant selected and the total. And when I submit it, it's filled in the memo field, and it's created a better post-submission step. And so I show you this because I think it shows the power of how we're able to go and bring in customer insights in real time, removing customer research as a bottleneck in the process, which has always been a bottleneck, even more so now when we can ship at this incredible speed. And if we go back to the slides. And so is design dead? Well, maybe. Actually, sorry, we can go back to that slide for a second. Your job is obviously getting bigger, and adding UX research to your stack of what you need to go and deliver makes it harder. And so really we need to find tools throughout every part of that cycle to make this faster and easier. Better data analysis tools, better ways to go and write PIDs, better ways to do UX research, whether using tools like Great Question or others. I'm not here to sell you on our tool. Your job is bigger, and it's getting more important, more strategic for the role you play in the product development lifecycle. While that first 90%, the first 90% of a design, maybe an engineer can go and get to, it's that last 10% that ultimately is the most important and separates your product from being a general also product to something that's truly differentiated in the market. And so the job now is about defining that system. It's also about finding out the knowledge problems in your organization that you're going to solve, and it's about identifying, curating, and holding space for taste, because you are the one that's going to be able to inform the rest of the team what looks like slop and what looks real and what's genuinely solving a customer problem. That's the quality bar. That's the last 10%. That's the delta that you're tasked with and how you're going to outrun the models. And so how do you build this? For us, it's about getting close to customers to really understand their problems. It's about using the best-in-class tools so we really understand what great product experiences look like. But it's equally about understanding the platforms, understanding what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. Things like MCP has a roadmap that's published. You can find out what this is going to do next month or next quarter and bake it into your product. We learned recently you can build interfaces inside of Claude that match your actual product. It's incredible. But you finally get what designers have always wanted, which is the ability to set and enforce your standards. You get to define the quality bar in your design system as one small example, and make research a part of every release, and track the deviations and enforce them. Everyone has to rise to that bar. It's ultimately about defining what greatness looks like and empowering everyone to listen at the speed you should. For us, that's about more sacrificial concepts. It's about shipping small fixtures and compressing that research loop. I'm going to skip forward. So design isn't dead, just like Great Question. It's being reborn. And it's your choice to go and take that challenge, to decide not to crawl up in a ball and die, but to take a couple of deep breaths and realize the only way out is through. So thank you. Thank you. I'll take it. If you're interested in talking about UX research or design, come and find me. I'll be at the Great Question booth and at the Leadership Circle. Thanks for your time.